I also shared the good news that Hamilton County Auditor Dusty Rhodes said Sycamore Township will receive $165,394.19, its share of the tax surplus. And I mentioned at that point that I ran for trustee on an agenda that was transparency based, and in that spirit, I was sharing information for the public record. And I referred to the Taco Bell site, 5 acres of land. The trustees spent millions of dollars acquiring in 2008, 2010, and 2011. He asked Mr. Bickford repeatedly for the plans for this property, but has been denied. Greg and Tom Weedman have been web conferencing with StreetSense, the site planning firm in Bethesda, Maryland. Jim asked Doug Miller, the law director, for assistance because we spent over $37,000 with StreetSense, and there must be something they can share. And I want to say that in doing research on that Taco Bell site on Montgomery Road, I found a number of items that related to transparency and lack of communication with residents. To illustrate his point on how property was obtained, he referenced Sycamore Township meeting minutes, and resolutions. I obtained this from more than 90 pages of documents. For instance, September 15, 2011, meeting minutes resolution 2011-84, passed authorizing the purchase and closing of the real property at 7781 Montgomery Road. And notice in the meeting minutes, there was no mention of the $1,150,000 being spent, and it never mentioned Taco Bell. Give you another reference, 12/16/2010, meeting minutes, the whole meeting, Thursday night meeting lasted all of 12 minutes. Mr. Raby, the administrator, presented the following purchase orders for consideration. Staggy property purchase, $699,913.02. Insurance for that was another $3,856.50. The total was over $700,000, $700,769.52. The vote was all aye, Weedman, Bishop, and Kent. No address given, no resolution. The address, I can tell you, is 7791 Montgomery Road. It's the Terry Bryant Workout Building. I presented more examples. Again, property wasn't identified, and in other cases, no resolutions. Mr. LaBarbera added, in my opinion, the examples I presented show a lack of transparency. I want this practice to stop. It's imperative for us as we proceed to have guidelines and a plan. My goal is to improve Sycamore Township government, transparency, and accountability. 42-minute time stamp. I read a letter, part of the letter that Mr. Weedman sent to a resident who wasn't happy with one of our decisions. And in that letter, Tom CC'd to the community press, that same letter, the I-Team at Channel 9, WCPO, and Hearst Communications. In that letter, he referenced the Taco Bell site, now working on plans for the property that we will include leasing the property to a developer. Mr. LaBarbera wanted to know who is we. Is it Bickford, Connor, Weedman and Connor? And I mentioned I have no knowledge of this. We don't include me, say I, Tom Weedman. LaBarbera said this Taco Bell project must include public discussion and involvement, transparency, open communication. 44 minutes and 19 seconds in, the timestamp, Mr. Connor said heavy duty accusations in there. Mr. LaBarbera responded and said it's all fact. Tom asked Doug Miller, our law director, to comment on questions about procedures we use. Mr. Miller hesitated and said that part of those properties, but not all, are part of litigation. 4620, Mr. Weedman accused Mr. LaBarbera of only picking pieces out of his letter to fit his narrative. When Jim said he has the letter, Tom said, you had your time. He described TIF funds, he being Tom Weedman, used to develop that land, but Mr. Miller said, once the road is in. For the next 5 minutes, Mr. Weedman went on a rant about all the good things he's done for the township, none of which related to what Mr. LaBarbera presented and documented. However, if you look in the minutes of the meeting that's been approved, the originally approved minutes, you'll find all of Tom's remarks.
Before you go on, Mr. LaBarbera, are we out of order here, Mr. Butler?
I think so.
you can suggest changes, things that, not changes, I'm sorry, things that are left out of the minutes, but editorial comments such as someone went on a rant, someone
Okay,
hesitated,
so I
things
won't
like
do
that
that.
are out.
Okay, I will not do that.
Of course, you've already done it.
Right. For the next 5 minutes, then Tom never addressed my concern, transparency, and open communication. Timestamp at 50:35. Contrary to what Mr. LaBarbera might say about our ability to manage your money, I can assure you we run this place like a business. He said we run it like a business twice. He's done it for the last 13 years. And said that I left things out because it didn't fit his narrative. And at 51:10, timestamp, I answered, Tom said I was selective, and I proceeded to read the letter. 52:01, Jim said, I don't know what you're getting upset about. This is I'm quoting exactly what you said as far as accusing you of misusing money. I never said that, and I don't think anyone heard me say you misused money. I said the way the process is going, I'm talking about I want open communication. I want transparency. That's what I want. If you have something else that maybe something was done behind closed doors, that might be another discussion. That was what I said. 52:30, Denny Connor said, I wish we could stop with the thinly veiled accusations. I responded, the moment I responded, I showed you the meeting minutes. This is a fact. This is fact. Then he said this is something under litigation. LaBarbera added, not all of it. I'm saying as we move forward on the Taco Bell site, we have open discussion about it, and I just pointed out you didn't have open discussions. 53:09, so we wrap things up. Timestamp, Doug Miller commented, as you said, moving forward, yes, but as far as I know, there is not a set plan that they've given us. I responded, LaBarbera responded, over $37,000 worth of conversation. There must be something that was said to spend $37,000 and not get any information. 54:38, then he said, this only vaguely qualifies as communication. Mr. LaBarbera disagreed. So those are the notes that I'm going to include in my corrections, objections to the August 2nd Sycamore Township trustee meeting.
I'd like to make a comment before we vote. We do this at every trustee meeting. The Ohio Attorney General's guidance on minutes for meetings indicates that minutes are a summary of business conducted, and that they're intended to help the public understand how we come to votes on the issues that we vote on. All of the issues that Mr. LaBarbera has presented in his objections and comments were not related to a vote. What our staff has been doing, and I think very effectively, and I commend them for it, is to listen to some very lengthy conversations, in some cases arguments, and in some cases heated arguments, and attempt to summarize them as succinctly as possible, especially when the issues do not result in a vote. That's what they have done with the minutes that were presented. That's why I seconded Mr. Weedman's motion to approve them. Reading your objections will take time, but if those are not part of the official minutes that we approved, they will certainly be placed in the record as objections and comments, but they will not be part of the minutes unless they relate to a vote. That's the way that the Ohio Attorney General has guided us in the way we're supposed to conduct this. And in my opinion, that's the way I will vote on approval of minutes tonight and going forward.
Well, I will call Mr. Butler's attention to the fact that they need not be verbatim. They need not be verbatim, but items should include statements of each trustee, especially if controversial. This according to the Ohio Township Association. So,
Again, the minutes are supposed to be a brief summary of the discussion leading up to the passage of the legislation.
Quite honestly, I'm embarrassed at the arguments that we have in public at these meetings, and I don't want to embarrass us further by giving a detailed account of that argument in the minutes. So I'm perfectly happy with the summary of the discussion that was conducted, and that goes into the minutes. And if someone wants to add detail, especially on issues that don't involve a vote, they're welcome to do that as objections and comments.
now you're telling me that that was not controversial. The statement that I made about the minutes were shown, there's Debbie Campbell to go from Debbie's office to Greg Bickford's office. That was a key item. And Rod Porter went absolutely bonkers at a meeting dismissing,
Once again,
Once again,
yeah,
Mr.
once
what
again,
I'm saying is
object
that
to
was
that.
controversial, and that should have been included in the minutes, and you can go back. I just said now, the last minutes of the August 2nd meeting, you can put that in there. It's just,
I
it's
think,
whatever
the
fits your
point, again,
narrative.
the point is, if the minutes reflect legislation passed. I'm not sure that
That was
your
not.
statements are related to legislation passed.
They absolutely is. And I'd
Well,
like to have
I mean,
another
is it-
attorney take a look at that. then.
Well,
To
you
really-
certainly can do that,
Yeah.
but if you're saying.
We're talking about this specific thing now. We're talking about
I'm listening.
we're talking about the specific thing of where the Ohio checkbook, when they demonstrated it, went from Debbie's office to his office. The controversy that night was, that caused all the uproar, was that it went to Columbus. When in fact, it was demonstrated that it went from one office to another office, to show that this works. You're right, you're not on board because it was Doug Miller was here for that time. So that's what it was about. So it didn't go to Columbus. But then they went
But
back.
I guess my point is it related to legislation
Absolutely.
that was addressed that night?
Yeah, absolutely it was. It was absolutely, because it was a controversial, that statement is
No, because
not in any minutes of any meeting. And that
Because
was-
That, if I could interject, that legislation was passed before he was even the trustee.
I was gonna say, a lot of what you're addressing, a lot of what I heard was legislation passed in 2010 and
So this
yeah,
happened
the
to
vote,
be
the
in
vote
Sept-
on Ohio checkbook
Wait a
was in
second, wait,
November.
it was in November of
2017.
17.
And it took 10 months to get it on the website. But going back to that was the minutes of the meeting that actually occurred. So if you're gonna report what happened at the meeting, that had to be a part of it.
Again, the minutes per Robert's Rules of Order, per.
I just read to you,
I understand what you
I
just
just
read to
read to
me,
you the
but just because the
controversial-
statement is controversial, if it's not related to legislation that's being addressed and passed at the meeting, doesn't need to go in the minutes.
I disagree with you. So,
I-
and that will continue.
I think we've taken enough time for the approval of minutes agenda item. We have lots of other things we need to discuss.
And the other stuff that I brought up that I mentioned, because there was just one line about this, and then Tom never addressed that. And I wasn't making an accusation, I was saying, going forward, here's what I expect. And I have a couple of comments to make in the old business.
So in fairness, do you want to give these folks the rest of the story, that you, in fact, you did receive all the information from Street Sense this week? You want to talk to them, just let them know,
Well, we
without
can't-
giving them,
we
the-
can't
without
discuss
giving,
that.
you can
We
say.
can't discuss details.
You
Okay,
can't list
finally,
details.
finally after, let me just say that finally after, well, after I was elected, I asked Greg Bickford, I was concerned about the
Just
Taco
talk,
Bell
I think it's fair just to explain to
Okay,
them
so
that
I
you
said-
received the information that you were
I
looking for.
finally received the information after the law director wrote 2 emails to request that information. So it took, how many months? 8 months. 8 months to get the information. So yes, in fact, I do now
That's
have,
great.
I now have saw what
Greg, you
they had, that they had talked about for months.
just want to address the timetable on that, just so that everyone's clear, because he makes it sound like we withheld something from him when in fact we didn't have anything. So go ahead and just explain that from the Street Sense
Yeah, you know,
standpoint.
after, I don't think Doug even wrote any emails about it. I
He
decided that.
wrote you
Mr.
2
Lamar-
emails, at least he said to me he did.
They
asking
never made
for
it
it.
to my inbox, so,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, Doug and I
That's
talked
a
about it,
problem.
and I told Doug that, yeah, Jim needs to see it, and here's my plan to see it, because Denny needed to see it too. Mr. Conner had not seen it either. So we put it together for both of those gentlemen to see it at the same time.
But the issue with seeing before this was that the Street Sense guy was on vacation.
Right, he was on vacation,
So-
and we had some lapses. I was on vacation, it's, you know.
Well, you have bills going back quite a ways. It's
Sure,
not like
been
this
working on
just
it for a while.
happened.
He just
This didn't
finished.
happen recently.
He just
I
finished.
was asking for, what information do you have that you can share with me as a trustee? That's what I was asking. And this plays into exactly what I'm talking about. We
I
have
didn't have any
there were
information.
3 trustees.
I didn't have any of the documents. The documents were at Street Sense. They were not here.
You
We
had
no
nothing, you
documents.
could say, hey, we spent $37,000 at that point And you're telling me that you have nothing that you could say?
I have no documents here to share with
But
anyone.
no, I'm not asking that, I'm saying that you could tell me verbally. You could tell me.
What did you wanna know? You wanted to see documents?
No, I didn't. I said I wanna know what you talked about. I went into your office at least once a month asking you, what did you talk about? And I was
We
never
are,
at that.
excuse me, we're really off the approval of
Well, he
minutes
wanted to-
agenda
he wanted to
item.
bring it up.
I think we've had enough discussion about the approval of minutes. We have a motion and a second on the approval of minutes. Mr. Porter, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. LaBarbera.
No, name.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Mr. Connor.
Aye.
You're good.
Next item on the agenda is comments from residents, and I believe we have several people who have signed up to speak. I think I saw some.
Yep.
Greg, do you have the sign-in
Got
sheet?
the list. J. James Jr.
Mr. Janis?
I request to be placed lower down so my friends from High Point can come and address you first, please.
Yeah.
That's fine. Go
Cora
ahead.
Jones.
That's
Cora
That's
Jones.
me. Can I just speak from back here?
We have a
Okay.
microphone.
Is it recording? Will it pick up from back there?
Start talking, let's see if we
All
can.
right, I am,
And please identify yourself. for the
yeah,
record.
I'm Cora Jones,
Okay.
and I'm from High Point. You
And your
guys know
address?
that little 12121 Second Avenue.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, and several of us are here. We have monthly meetings with Officer Bitterman, which you know, sometimes Harry makes it, but he's not been in quite a while. We have a lot of zoning and maintenance and things going on in our neighborhood. There's a couple of brothers that are buying up all kinds of abandoned properties, sell stuff, and they have it under 3 different names. It's the Royce brothers, I don't know. We hear that they have outstanding building violations in other counties and stuff. They're coming in and they're renting them out, and like 30 people are moving in these little 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom houses. And we talked about it with Harry about when we live in our homes. I'm a homeowner, been there for, my mom and dad lived there, and I've been in my home for 45